So in wellness care, people really want to know like, hey, how often should I really be getting adjusted? And it really depends. How often you should get adjusted should really be based off of a few things. The first one is like how structurally sound is your spine? So if you have really good curves, if you've had great correction, then your spine's significantly more resilient to stress. Okay, so if your spine's in great alignment, if your spine is healthy, if there's stability in there, then your body can handle more stress than say if you've lost the curve in your lower back or if you have lost the curve in your neck. Those misalignments really create a lot of weakness and instability, which means that you're gonna need adjusted way more, even if you have the same amount of stress. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is what kind of stresses do you have? Obviously, what causes misalignments or subluxations in the spine are stresses. So you have physical stress. So how many hours do you sit during the day? What kind of manual labor do you do? What kind of traveling do you have to do? So, or do you have injuries, or do you have a lot of physical activity? So those things can really determine like how fast or what kind of misalignments that your spine will have. And then you have stuff like emotional stress. And that speaks for itself. Emotional stress creates a lot of defense physiology, and it can really create a lot of misalignments in your spine that can cause subluxations and damage. And so everyone has those stressors, from varying degrees. Some days are worse, some days are better, some seasons are worse, and some seasons are better. But like that's what would really determine like how often you would be getting adjusted is what kind of stressors do you have? How fast are you causing subluxations? And then the third one is like, how do you feel? Like if you feel bad, you should be getting adjusted more often. Now, most subluxations are asymptomatic. So even if you're feeling really good, you should still be getting adjusted on a consistent basis because we want to stay feeling good. And we don't want to have subluxations or damage in our spine build up and then finally be creating a symptom, because we'd be lucky if it's a back symptom. Like that tells me like if my neck hurts, like I know that there's a neck issue. But what if the subluxation doesn't manifest as a back issue? What if it manifests as an organ issue? What if the symptom starts to show up like you're having, trouble breathing, or if we're having heart arrhythmias, if we're having digestive issues, or maybe we're having more, fatigue issues, or we're not sleeping as good. Like all those can be signs of neurological interference or subluxation or a misalignment in the spine. And so we're lucky if it kind of shows up as a spinal issue, because then we know, we need to do something about it. But even if we feel bad, then absolutely, if I wake up and my neck hurts or my back is more stiff, then I'm clearly going to be getting extra adjusted. But that's really what should determine how often we get adjusted in wellness care. Now, there's a couple of typical recommendations that we do. Once a week, wellness care is typically reserved for people who have symptoms. Like we're still trying to overcome some of their original symptoms, or they've just had chronic long-term symptoms that are kind of always going on. So we're always kind of battling symptoms. Or if their spine's still really out of alignment, so maybe even still trying to get some correction in wellness care, or if they just have the time and energy and resources that they really want to be extremely proactive. Like that's what once a week is really reserved for. Now, the majority of my adult patients, I tend to kind of recommend every other week. It's enough to be very proactive, but it's not overwhelming either. So the majority of patients do really pretty good at every other week. Especially if stresses are going up and down. I do have a once a month option, and it's typically a kind of reserved for if there's maybe financial stresses. They don't want to not get adjusted, but they maybe they can't do every other week or once a week, so they don't want to sprint in the wrong direction. So they're at least doing once a month, and it's going to help them avoid regression. But if you're at once a month, you absolutely have to be consciously focused on when those stresses are higher than normal, because you'll need to get extra adjusted based off of those stressors, or you're just going to slowly regress. And we don't want that, because people come in, they're getting adjusted and they're doing really good in their maintenance, and out of nowhere their symptoms are starting to show back up, but they've been getting adjusted. It's just because there wasn't enough correction, wasn't enough adjustments to equal the amount of stresses that they had. So if you're at once a month, make sure you're very proactive with getting extra adjustments when you've had a lot of stressors. Okay, guys, I hope that helps out. We'll talk to you later. Stay consistent with your wellness adjustments, and obviously get extra if you know you need it.